When you think about general aviation, it's not just people sort of recreational flyers. We're talking aeromedical, we're talking charter, we're talking helicopters, we're talking mustering, we're oil and gas, helicopter transfers, business jets. Flight training is the big one. I really want to get some data from flight training.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 145 of the Flight Training Australia podcast. Whether you're lying in bed with laryngitis, I'm not even going to try and say the rest, living fit and healthy. This is the podcast all about flight training and flying in Australia and beyond. G'day, I'm your ridiculously sick host, Trent Robinson. And I honestly didn't think I'd get this one done, but we pushed through. I have lost my voice the last 3 days or so. Went down to the Granites, which was great, but not feeling so great, but okay. And you might have seen the Twin Comanche down at Western Sydney doing the lighting aerodrome testing. Well, that's what I did down at the Granites the other day, except there were no cameras, no one cared. But that was a fantastic experience. I did that with Carl from AMS, and we went down there and assessed all the lighting, and Nat and the team that had put together, and everything was working beautifully. The PAPI was fantastic. The runway lights were all nice and bright. And we did a daytime and a nighttime test, circling at Cat C, circling distance to make sure everything stayed in vis. Not that a jet would typically be doing a circling approach, but you never know. And we got the job done. So that was fantastic. But yeah, as soon as I got back, that was the end of it. I went to bed and was there for a couple of days. I think it'd be a major case of the man flu. But lost my voice. And as you can hear, it's just coming back, but it's by no means podcast worthy, but the show must go on, as they say. So just before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to reinforce what I posted yesterday, which if you're following the socials, I'm sure you've got to see that in conjunction with Paul Strike and myself, we are kicking off our Create Better Pilots programs, which we've decided to run and put together. There's a series of online webinars that anyone in Australia can join, anyone in the world. If you want to jump on, you're more than welcome to. And we're going to start off with flight instructors. As we said, the train the trainer is really the area we need to start focusing on. And we'll be kicking off with 5 weeks, every Wednesday night for 5 weeks, starting at about 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, depending on where you are. Can you believe in a couple of weeks' time, basically now, we have 5 time zones in Australia. It's just absurd. But that's where we're at. So if you're in Western Australia, it's going to be 5 o'clock. Sorry, I know that's a little bit close to finish work time, but it's going to be 8 o'clock in Sydney and Melbourne, and we can't keep them up until after 10. So check it all out. I've got all the links on the website description, but we'll be going through the process of instructors, the common misperceptions, errors, how to PMI principles, how to go through a flight review, how to be a better instructor. And then the subsequent 4 weeks, we'll be going through effects and controls through to circuits and all the common misunderstandings, things we've seen been doing wrong, inefficiently or whatever, and also linking in loss of control in flight principles that could be done a little bit better. It's not getting into UPRT, that's all separate and will be done later on, but it's going to be a really fantastic 5 weeks. They're only $50 each, absolute bargain. Or $250 for all 5 sessions, and we would love to have you on board. So jump on the Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. The details are all there. I'll be posting it sporadically through the next few weeks, and the link will also be in the episode description for this episode now. Today I'm speaking again with the founder of Navigating Aviation and recent winner of the Excellence Award and Female Aviation Leader of the Year for Small Business, recently at the Australian Aviation Awards. We last chatted about a year and a half ago and promised to follow up with her regarding a special project she was working on, which has now finally come to fruition. So to tell us all about it, welcome once again to the podcast, Angela Garvey.
Hi, Trent. It's great to speak again for the second time. A lot has happened in the past 18 months.
It absolutely has. Look, congratulations on the award again. It was great to see you there. And even though you beat me in the Excellence Award, that's okay. I think you're far more deserving, so well done.
Oh, no, I don't know about that. But yeah, it was a huge surprise. I did not expect it at all. And nothing much sort of surprises or rattles me, but that absolutely rattled me that night. So thanks.
Well, there's some fantastic nominations in there, and finalists. It was a really great night and great to catch up with you again. And also, of course, caught up at the Create Better Pilots conference that Paul and I ran in Queensland. And you very graciously came up with Malcolm Sharp, and you both presented. But more importantly, with what we're talking about today, you had a really great presentation just on the importance of monitoring mental health in pilots and not necessarily, well, really understanding what mental health is. And of course, like I said, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily mentally sick or unwell as the traditional definition, but it could just be really suffering from workplace fatigue and workplace stress, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And at the moment, there's a buzzword called psychosocial hazards in the workplace. And the reason why it's a buzzword now is because as of April 2023, just last year, it became federal legislation and mandated that employers manage psychosocial hazards under the Workplace or the Work Health and Safety Act. And aviation has a unique set of psychosocial hazards that is not talked about enough in the industry, and we really do need to start addressing this, which is why I'm sort of have quite passionate about, I guess, identifying what those hazards are and risk mitigating those hazards, but also working with business owners, managers, chief pilots, chief instructors, senior staff, chief engineers, and helping them identify what these hazards are and how to risk mitigate them and put processes in place. And it's not that dissimilar to working with a safety management system.
Absolutely. So, what are some ways you think that we can normalize talking about these sort of topics? Because, again, it's a bit exposing to some and uncomfortable for others on the receiving end, isn't it?
Well, I think it shouldn't be uncomfortable at all. It's just, we need to break down those stigmas and just have open and honest conversations just about just simple things. There are many hazards, psychosocial hazards in the workplace and in aviation. It could be high job demands, how you're going, just managing people's irregular shifts and the high pressure and, the safety critical roles. Sometimes there's the poor work-life balance, especially when you're away a lot and you're not close to family and friends. Poor communication is quite often the biggest one in workplaces. Job insecurity, being uncertain about your future of your job, especially in circumstances where there's volatility in the industry, especially with airlines and even charter businesses. And another big one is the exposure to trauma in aviation, and it could be a near incident or a near event, or it could be something significant that's happened. We don't immediately address those generally, and we most certainly don't do any real follow-up support when someone has had an incident or seen or witnessed an incident or came close. So there's plenty. The list goes on, and there's just your everyday life stuff. Could be a relationship breakdown or something that's going on in your family, or an issue with your children, or your dog's died, or whatever. We bring all of those stresses to work, and that does affect our ability at work, how we perform, and our safety as well.
That's absolutely true. Since we last spoke, I guess you're fairly in your infancy. So how have you found things been going since then, and the uptake of people taking the services that you provide?
Since really, Navigating Aviation launched in January 2023. So, very, very recently. And since then, it's just gone gangbusters, really. It just shows that there's such a demand for this in the industry. And I've always known that, because obviously just through my lived experience and just witnessing and working, not only having owned my own general aviation business for 17 years, but then working, I took a break from flying for, well over a decade. So I worked in a lot of aviation industries, big corporate organizations, and even aeromedical. And so I just sat back and just observed a lot. And so I gained a lot of insight and experienced a lot of things myself, through all of those jobs, even, from my own business. So I just sort of took all of that experience and threw that into everything that I knew that needed support. And since launching, I've been able to help a lot of people, even a pilot who had a serious accident, and it was quite frankly, it was a near fatality, really. And this pilot was actually supported by being on work cover, and he had the opportunity to choose some counselling or to see a psychologist while he was on work cover, and he actually chose to speak to me. So it was a period of ongoing counselling sessions for about 12 months, and he's now back flying and working for an airline and having a great time. And that just goes to show the success of supporting people immediately after an incident, and that ongoing support can get them back into the workforce rather than costing insurance companies and even the government hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars in money, when we could be supporting people immediately and getting them back to work, and them going on to living amazing, confident, successful lives.
Yeah, I can totally imagine getting straight in there and dealing with it rather than allowing it to manifest and brew and affect you for years down the track. And as with so many people, left unresolved, isn't it? And it can just really cause damage.
Exactly. We need to be able to get to people immediately when something happens. And it doesn't have to be an accident. It can be an incident that sort of rattles you and shakes you, and you lose your confidence and you don't want to get back in the air, or you make excuses and all the rest of it. We need to get to people immediately. And even after that unfortunate incident that happened at Camden with the student, I spoke with the instructors after that and briefed them and helped prepare them for their upcoming ATSB interview. And I know that helps support them, just because I've experienced all of that myself and I know what that process is like. I was able to talk them through what was going to happen. You can have a support person, make sure you write everything down. And of course I can't, put words into their mouth about what they need to say or do. It's really just that I'm just that support person that says, look, this is what the room's going to look like. This is what it's going to feel like. The ATSB are actually amazing. They're not there to judge or anything else. They're just there to get the answers that they need to do to be able to complete and finalize an investigation. So, they freak out. They go, "Oh my God, I'm going to be interviewed by the ATSB," and I'm like, "No, they're amazing. They're supportive. They're just there to get the answers. To ask the questions and to get the answers to the questions that they're asking, so that they can go and do an in-depth investigation." So that just settles people. I've been talking to low-time pilots who have left their training, and it's their first job out in a remote location, flying charter and freight and all sorts of things, and all the challenges that they have, going from living in a city and even from living at home to a remote location, and just the difference in trying to fit in. And they feel like they're there's no one to kind of turn to, or they don't feel confident in talking to some of the staff. So it's all about an open communication and teaching them the confidence to just communicate openly. So of course your chief pilot wants to talk to you and wants to have that open communication, but they lack that confidence still to openly express. So a lot of the things that I work on with people is just that open expression, that open communication, and being brave to have those conversations, to put your hand up and go, hey, I'm not comfortable about something, do I need more support, or do I need more training, or whatever? And you just hand it over to the chief pilot to kind of sort that out. That's their job. Their job is to support you and to make sure that you're safe in your job and that you're doing your job well. So the depth and breadth of people that I'm talking to is quite amazing, and it just confirms to me that this is so needed in the industry.
Are you finding, I mean, I guess it's great that staff and that have somewhere to talk to. And like you say, it can be from all manner of things. Like we go in to get a job. We don't expect to be talking to the ATSB and having an incident, and possibly having a mate in a very near miss, or even a fatality. It's not something we ever talk about in flight training and all that. Do you find, or have you had much feedback from employers of someone who's gone through your program and then they've been receptive to it? And have you also had the opposite, where employees may feel threatened that they may be talking about them and causing them problems that, having to change their ways?
Well, the biggest thing about Navigating Aviation and me being a registered counsellor, I'm registered through the Australian Counselling Association of Australia. So I'm bound by strict confidentiality regulations and rules as well. And plus, just the nature of aviation, it's very untrusting still. Do I seek support? If I talk to Angela, will she talk to anyone? Because I know a lot of people in the industry, but I sort of refer to myself as that, that country doctor in the small country town where everyone knows who the doctor is, but that you have to come to this person for all your intimate details, and you have to trust that person isn't going to tell their partner or their neighbor or their children or whatever. And my business, or my service rather, is 100% based on pure trust and confidentiality because of the nature of the business. So anyone who talks to me, it is 100% strictly confidential. So an employer would only know that one of their staff members has spoken with me if the staff member has disclosed that. Otherwise, the employer would not know.
And that's really how it needs to be, isn't it? Just to have that comfort that they can really seek the help that they truly need, rather than have that hanging over their head.
Yeah, you have to be able to have the confidence that everything that you say is definitely just between yourself and the counsellor. And I also have two counsellors as well that I've brought on. One is a psychologist, actually, who he's got a psychology degree, but he's actually an aircraft engineer. So I really wanted to bring someone in that has that aircraft engineering background, because I've got a soft spot for aircraft engineers, and I think they need more attention, I guess, than anything else. They're the ones that keep our machines in the air, and they've got such an important job, and they're quite often left out. When an incident happens or when an accident happens, the pilots obviously are interviewed, or the business, the charter business, or the flight training business, and the owners are interviewed, but also the aircraft engineers are very much interviewed, and the chief engineers. So we can't forget the level of stress that they're under and how it impacts them when something happens, or there's an incident. It doesn't have to be a disastrous incident, but just even something that could have been, does have a huge impact on them. So, and I've also got a counsellor who specialises in fatigue management and night shift for the pilots who, especially the aeromedical pilots who do a lot of, night shift. So I'm trying to bring more and more counsellors in. So, people can pick and choose. They don't have to talk to me if they don't want to. They can pick and choose between the three of us, and that number is growing with counsellors as the service is growing. But I am choosing people with specific aviation backgrounds.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely crucial, isn't it? Because otherwise you spend half the time trying to explain it to them and not getting the understanding and help you need. It gets a bit generic.
Yeah, well, that's why I struggled so much, because absolutely speak to a counsellor, speak to your friends, speak to your family, speak to a psychologist. But I did find that I did want to speak to someone that had that aviation knowledge. When you go and speak to someone and you're trying to explain what the ATSB is and what an IFR is and all the acronyms in aviation, you feel like you're spending half your time explaining what the acronyms are and all the technical stuff rather than getting to the root cause of why you're actually there having the conversation. And so that's kind of that's why it's nice for people to talk to us, because we do have that intimate knowledge of the acronyms and the nuances and the culture and just how aviation operates, really.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. Well, so as we said, had a bit of a project that you've been working on apart from just developing the business and the services that you offer. So tell us about the Culture and Wellbeing Survey for General Aviation Workers you've just launched.
Yeah.
What went into it, what's going to happen with the results, and yeah, tell us everything.
So the General Aviation Culture and Wellbeing Survey has been bubbling away for a very long time, and it started with a conversation I had with actually from the construction industry, an organisation that supports and does mental health for the construction industry. And I had this conversation about a couple of years ago, and the gentleman I was speaking to, whose name just I can't remember, but he said the only reason why we realized just how bad things were was, we did this, we started collating data because there was no data, because, construction industry is very sort of male dominated sort of industry and very blokey and very sort of she'll be right. And then there's more women coming into the industry as well. So that's where I thought, geez, that's what we don't have in aviation. We actually don't have any data, and it's not only general aviation, but I don't think the airlines as well, as far as this real national survey, as in, let's get down to the nitty gritty of just how healthy, unhealthy the industry is in that way. So to be able to create change, we actually need to be able to see where the big issues are. So I was very, very fortunate this year to be able to receive a grant from the Department of Infrastructure and Transport Women Working in the Aviation Industry initiative. And thankfully, one of the requirements was to conduct a survey, which I'd already started working on anyway. And I started working on this survey, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is bigger than Ben-Hur. I need to really stop work and throw all sorts of money at this. And already I've kind of, with Navigating Aviation, that's all completely self-funded to get to where I've been while working full time as well. So a bit like you, working 7 days a week. And so, yeah, I was very fortunate to get that grant, and I've been working with a independent research, marketing and research company called Bastion Insights, and they have together we've put together the survey questions, just because of the questions that are specific to what I know, what the issues are in the industry, and the answers and the data that I wanted to be able to receive from that. The questions have also been reviewed by aviation medical specialists. So that went out just on the 3rd of October. So it's out in circulation now. It's out for 4 weeks. We've got one crack at this. I want everyone in GA to be able to participate in this. So when you think about general aviation, it's not just people sort of recreational flyers. We're talking aeromedical, we're talking charter, we're talking helicopters, we're talking mustering, oil and gas, helicopter transfers, business jets, flight training is the big one. I really want to get some data from flight training. So I want to target the students, the flight training students, the apprenticed aircraft engineers, male and female, especially the females, and flight instructors, business owners, so general aviation business owners, the aircraft engineers. I really want to hear from the aircraft engineers and the owners of the aircraft engineering businesses, just to be able to get a big overall picture of how they're feeling, where they feel like they're not being met, what their barriers are to accessing support, how they're treated in the workplace, what is the culture of the workplace, what things do we need to, what programs, what support services do we need to throw into these areas to be able to grow a really strong foundation for aviation. Because as we know in general aviation, it's a massive industry, but a lot of people from GA, aircraft engineers, pilots, managers, operational staff, crew, eventually can end up in an airline where, all of a sudden it's the airline's problem down the track. So why don't we focus on the grassroots? So that's where I've started with GA. Plus GA is my playground. I've worked in GA and just a lot of people that I speak to every day, most of them are from general aviation. And airlines and larger corporate sort of businesses do have employee assistance programs, peer support programs, and even though I'm sure they could be improved upon to be more aviation specific, it's better than nothing. And at least, with general aviation, we've all agreed that there's actually nothing. There's zero. there's no, in most organizations, if there are, I'm sure there are some out there that I haven't tapped into yet, but in most, there's absolutely nothing.
Yeah, all right. So what sort of support have you got from industry as far as, other than Bastian, of course, that have come on board? But are CASA interested in what you're doing here and looking at that from a human factors point of view and all that?
Yeah, look, I haven't really had a lot to do with CASA with this because I've wanted to keep it completely independent.
Sure.
But judging by some conversations that I've had, they know from social media that I'm doing this. They're very, very supportive of it. They're very supportive.
Great.
But the ATSB are incredibly supportive, so much so that they're sharing the survey link on their social media platforms. Because they're interested too, because they're the ones that do the investigations to accidents that happen in general aviation. So, it's a part of the accident investigation process. And this is my belief, by the way. I am no expert accident investigator, but the common sense tells me I would want to actually look at the culture of that business. Is it a business where you're being pushed? Is it a business where you're being bullied? Is it a business where you're being harassed? Is it a business where it's all about the profits or the money or whatever? So the culture of a business and could be, just common sense directly correlated to an accident or an incident.
100%. We've talked before where CASA have admitted themselves that, we want to have a implemented just culture system in companies, but they've got no way of measuring it or investigating it.
Yeah, that's right.
And like you say, with accidents, things, we've got flight data recorders and cockpit voice recorders, but we don't have a what's going on in your head recorder necessarily. Was that anything to do with what happened and why, and what's going on, especially for ATSB? So
Yeah.
the more preventative measures we can do rather than reactive, I think it's all the better for it.
That's right. And that's why I want to get to the kids, or even just the people, even adults. There's a lot of mature aged adults now learning to fly, to just say to them, or just to really drive that home, that you need to be able to put your hand up and speak up and have the confidence. Your aviation is very intimidating when you're a low time pilot and you're going out on your first charter job, or even just in your flight training environment. You've got to be able to listen to your gut, and when something's not right, you've got to be able to have that brave, be brave and put your hand up. And so we're also looking at the culture. If you're in a low time charter pilot and you want to put your hand up and you get sacked, or you call something out and you get sacked for it, and then you get told, if you tell anyone this, or if that whole "you're not going to get a job anywhere" kind of attitude that does happen in some aviation businesses. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Trent, but I'm sure you've heard of that before. It's not just me that's heard of that. I mean, I'm talking to people every week, so I'm hearing it. So that's the culture that we want to shake, and we want to support business owners and chief pilots and head of flying operations to, I guess, not use scare tactics on people so that they become silenced or feel like that they are being silenced. Because we actually want people to have conversations, and of course, you have to be discerning. Sometimes people can be a little bit over the top, but as a manager or a chief pilot or a head of flying operations or a chief engineer, sometimes you have to listen and go, okay, well, there might be something here. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. I understand. Let's look at this, rather than, ping off and suck it up sort of thing.
Yeah. And I guess that's still where we've got some ways to go, where what we reveal to AvMed and our medicals and things, we would love to be in a space where we can say, I'm not feeling so great and would like some help, but there's still that vulnerability and worry that they're going to have their medical stripped from us, and people can't say what they really want to say and have to sort of do it off the books with you. And that obviously causes a conflict in itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, and CASA are really supportive of people reaching out to get support. So they're very, very supportive, and obviously that they support what I'm doing, because it's about having conversations. And I have never, this survey is absolutely not out to, it's not anti CASA or anti the system at all. I mean, they're trying their best to change their ways with a lot of things, and there's a lot that's happened in the FAA in the States, and different reports and whatever, that people are really sort of looking at, and Australia's not that far behind. So it's, things are changing, and I just want people to know that even if they do reach out support for a psychologist or a counsellor, that it is absolutely supported by industry, and not to be afraid of doing that.
Yeah, well, it truly is in everyone's best interest, isn't it? So I'm
Absolutely.
pleased to hear that.
Mm.
All right, and so what are you hoping to do with all the results and sharing with everybody, and where to from there?
Yeah, well, Bastion obviously are a social research organisation, so the survey is 100% anonymous and confidential. They manage all of that from the back end. They do all the magic, and they're going to do a report which is going to be open, which is going to be available to the public. So with that, a part of the Women in Aviation initiative is to roll out programs that are going to support businesses and people. And I will go into a business. So I'm focusing on 4 key areas just for this initiative that I have, and it's going to be flight training. It's going to be low time charter pilots to support the pilots, the aircraft engineers, or anyone working in small sort of charter businesses, rural and remote. And also aircraft engineering training, so helping apprentices through their apprenticeship and just supporting them, supporting the businesses who have taken on the apprenticeships, people who are doing their apprenticeship, and also the aircraft engineering training providers. So just supporting people to stay in those industries, answer all of their questions, and also supporting the business owners, supporting the chief engineers, supporting the engineering staff with helping and supporting the new apprentices and people coming into the industry. So it's about retaining, and obviously there's a focus on there to support the women, especially going into engineering roles, so that they can feel supported in those roles and stay in those roles, because we really do need to have more female aircraft engineers. I mean, they needed us in World War II, didn't they, when all the fellas were out? All of a sudden, all the women were
stories that are coming out about all that. It's just fantastic, isn't it?
We were building aeroplanes and doing all sorts of amazing things and flying Spitfires in the night. But, because we were so bloody good at it, they wouldn't talk about it too much. That's the problem.
Yeah, they're getting shown up.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's all sort of coming out just how amazing these women were back in World War II. So there's no reason why we can't have a complete and utter floor of female aircraft engineers, and definitely more female pilots or women pilots.
Oh, fantastic.
It's not rocket science, is it, Trent, really?
No, it isn't. It isn't.
It is not rocket science.
No, it isn't at all. Look, it's fantastic that you're doing it, and I really wish you all the best with the survey. So submissions close the end of the 31st of October, end of the month. So I definitely encourage everyone to jump on board and complete it. The more data, the better, no matter sort of how insignificant you think your little contribution may be. And as always, of course, I'll put the episode description. We'll have the link to the forum. Plus, you can look up Angela's website. It is all online as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be sharing it on social media, and there's a link on the Australian Aviation website. There's an article there. So please pick it up and please share it amongst businesses, aircraft engineers, apprentices, flight training students, instructors, aeromedical, helicopter, fixed wing. Please just share it. And
anyone with an ASIC.
Anyone with an ASIC, basically. Yeah, absolutely. Or even managers and support crew that don't have an ASIC. Please.
Anyone with an ASIC or in the vicinity of someone holding one.
Yeah, that's right. You could be accompanied. Yeah.
All right, awesome, Angela. Thank you for putting up with my sick, croaky voice.
Yeah.
And really great chatting to you again. If you'd like to know more about Angela's work and her amazing team, you can obviously check the website out. You can go backwards and listen to episode 72. I last spoke to her in March last year.
Yeah.
And all the best for the survey. And look forward to catching up with you very soon and finding out how it all went.
Yeah, there's just so much has happened in that short space of time, and it's all changing and evolving and happening sort of very rapidly. So every 6 months there's something new happening. It's taking me by surprise, but I'm really enjoying it, and just I'm so glad that I'm able to contribute something that's really positive for general aviation.
Amazing. All right, Ange, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Trent.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Big thanks to Angela Garvey there for joining us with that awesome work she's doing with that survey. So, all the links are in the episode description, and please do take the time to go and fill that out. All right, I'm not going to try and talk any longer. Stay safe, have a fantastic week, and remember the golden rule. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Talk soon. Bye.